Hey, HannahMouse1 here, and in this video I will be making 3 DIY Avengers charms, like keychains, based on the characters Thor, Captain America and Iron Man. I'm starting with Thor, and I'm starting off by making a net for a box, sort of thing you might have done in primary school. And that's because I'll be making his trusted hammer, Mjolnir. I think I'm pronouncing that right. So yeah, I take all these pieces of the net and I use paper to kind of hold them together, create a nice secure connection between them, and yeah, just go around making sure everything is in place to make a nice box which will act as the head of the hammer. Yeah, I place the end pieces on and secure them with lengths of paper which I glue down over the sides. And then I create smaller pieces. I was definitely making this up as I go along, trying to work out what looked right. I double layered that and stuck them on the end to create the 3D effect that each surface of the hammer has. I do that on all the sides, and the one on the bottom is broken up into 3 pieces to create the ridges that run down it. I place a circle on top, and then I create a nice sloping edge with pieces of cardboard between all the sides to make it look like it's just the cuboid has pieces, just like triangles cut out of the edges almost. I fill the worst of the gaps in with pieces of tissue, just gluing those down and creating nice smooth connections between them. Smaller gaps will get filled when the paint job goes in, but yeah, for the larger gaps I do need to cement those in, and I use small pieces of paper in triangles to cover the corners. I start off with a cocktail stick toothpick thing for the handle, but to thicken it up a bit I take a length of paper and I just roll it round and round, gluing it down until I get something with basically the texture of like a lollipop stick. Like for those Chipper Chaps lollipops. I cement that on with scraps of tissue, and I wrap a piece of paper around the base, and then I use a piece of tissue to build out the top where the strap is going to be connected to. These are like the metal embellishments. I use a thin piece of paper for the actual leather strap itself, and then I use pieces of cotton or thread to go around to create the embossed sections of that. I paint the head of the hammer in silver, the handle in brown. These are just poster paints, these are the cheapest of the cheap paints. I dry brush a bit of a darker colour on it, and then I paint the metal parts of the handle in a lighter silver, and then I use the same lighter silver to create edge highlights on the head of the hammer, because that increases the metal appearance of it. And I also use a metallic paint on the cotton or thread pieces around the handle to make it look like they are metal. I tie a piece of cotton around the strap, and then I slip a cell phone strap through there, and that's that charm done. So now I'm going to be moving on to Iron Man. I had a bit of trouble trying to work out what I should make for Iron Man, because it's he doesn't really have a prop. His most iconic thing is himself, the suit. He doesn't carry anything specifically iconic. But I didn't want to make a model of the suit, so what I decided to do was make his first miniature Arc Reactor, the one that Pepper keeps for him after she helps him switch it out, and places it in the case with the phrase, "Proof that Tony Stark has a heart." I create these little pieces of paper between cardboard sides, and then I put these around. In reality, there are 10 of these on the miniature Arc Reactor. I simplified it down to 5, because if I tried to do this any thinner, I think my fingers would fall off. I can work small, but I can only go so far, I use a piece of thread to create the glowing circle. It will be a bit more obvious when it's painted. And I just build everything up to make a nice circle out of paper, just filling in all the gaps and just creating a nice wedge between each of the pieces. And then I glue pieces of thread down over these bits which are meant to look like wires. It will look a bit better when it's painted. Because these are like coils of like a copper coloured wire. I assume it's copper. Then I take some metallic silver and some matte grey paint and mix them together to get something which is slightly between the two. And I use this to paint the outer ring of the stand where the letters are going to be, because I didn't want a super shiny background of that, but I still wanted it to look like it was metal. The inside I paint a nice light blue to create the look like it's a blue glowing thing. I paint the back in the same semi-metallic colour. I use a darker blue in some areas, which I then blend back into a light blue and like add some white and stuff in certain areas. I then glue on a ring around over the top of that. And then I use pure metallic paint on the inner ring around this, where it's like supposed to be a pure metal look. And then I colour these sections of the Arc Reactor in with a nice sky blue to look like it's glowing blue. And then I use a copper brown metallic paint on the metallic parts, which are supposed to be wires, I think. And then I paint the edges of these bits in black, as so. And then I use a toothpick to dot on the letters, proof that Tony Stark has a heart. I think Tony is probably my favourite of the Avengers. And his arc across the entire Infinity Saga was so good, like he came so far. But like he also still had that like sassy, confident, like he still stayed, like he changed like all for the best, but he still was what made him him, which is like a really well done arc. And then I use a needle to punch a hole through the top of here, and I thread a piece of string through, which I can use to tie that off to make it into an actual charm like I did with the Thor Mjolnir. And I just cut that down, and then I just slip it through another strap. Now onto Captain America. I didn't want this shield to be super simple, because it would be really easy to cut out a circle, stick a star on it, and be like, that's the shield. But instead I wanted to make sure I definitely got that curved look. Like it is curved in. So I used the back of a spoon as like a guide, and when it dried I just peeled off the paper, like the tissue that I'd stuck down, and it kept the shape of the spoon, to which like was what I was looking for. It just created a nice rounded effect, and when I tidied up the edges with a pair of scissors, just going around and clearing all that up, it really helped make it look really neat. I kept it on the spoon because I didn't want it to like deform, so I often worked on it on the spoon. I used like pieces of thread to create the definition between the stripes on the shield. So yeah, I just glued these down and just try and get them as round as possible. They're not perfect by any means, they are definitely a bit wobbly. But yeah. I use a piece of paper just to create a strap, then I mix some white paint with some PVA glue, which I'm going to prime this surface with, because I wanted to glue these down, make sure these were perfectly secured down, and it also helps the paint stick. And especially as I'm going to be trying to do a non-metallic metal effect, I needed a nice, clear, clean surface to work off of. If you don't know what I mean by non-metallic metal, I want this to look like it's made of metal without me using metallic paints, which I do by leaving like highlights on it. If you look at pictures of the shield, you'll see these stripes. And I got so into this effect, I didn't realise for ages that I painted this stripe the wrong colour initially. This stripe's meant to be grey, not blue. And it took me forever to notice that. And then when I did, I was like kicking myself. So yeah, I had to go all over that in like white and try and use that primer again just to try and hide that before I could go over it in grey. And I paint on the star in a metallic silver. The fact I haven't used metallic anywhere else does also help the actual silver on the star really pop, in a way it wouldn't if the entire thing was shiny and metallic. So yeah, I then go over the metallic effect on the second ring in grey. And then I outlined the star just because I didn't think it stood out enough, so I used just black and just outlined that. I find using paint off my thumbnail just helps me maintain control. And then I use a couple layers of a matte Mod Podge just to help get rid of a lot of the abrasiveness that the paint layers have built up. It just makes the entire thing nice and smooth, which helps a more consistent finish. I tie on the thread to hang it off of, place in the strap, and that's all of them done. I think these are so cool. You could use them as like keychains or even Christmas decorations or stuff like that. These are really cool, really simple. Like, these were made of really cheap materials, and I think they're so cool. So thanks for watching. I will see you next week. Bye.